Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Cilinix Crypto. We're back again with a new video on the crypto markets, a middle of the day market update. It's been a while because Saturday and Sunday I did not do one of these videos, but right now we're back. Luckily, I'm improvising a little bit. Normally I do a bit of a preparation about what I want to talk about, but I think I know what to talk about, or I think I know what I want to talk about, which is obviously starting off with a little bit of fundamentals. Today we don't have any major news, but it's good to be aware of the potential government shutdown. Now, as I know so far, obviously it's relatively early, right? So the US market hasn't even opened. That's opening in about 15 minutes. But as of right now, I don't think that there's any major things going on in terms of the shutdown. I mean, I do see I do see some headlines coming in from Federal Reserve board members. I do see Trump, he said that they will impose substantial tariffs on furniture. I will be imposing substantial tariffs on any country that does not make its furniture in the United States. Details will follow. That's going to be interesting, but as it stands right now, when we're talking about actual fundamentals, that isn't doing too much. The volatility index is still relatively low, especially if you compare to last week. Last week, volatility index was actually relatively high and growing, so that's a reason for concern. But as it stands right now, it's not a reason for concern. And if you take a look at the S&P 500 pre-market, so basically equities pre-market, that's rallying higher here. And even with, I mean, the headlines about the tariffs. To be fair, I think last week we already heard something about that. So it's nothing new. And that's why it's probably also not affecting the markets at this point of time. The markets actually look quite resilient. Now, when we're talking specifically about crypto here, we will focus on Bitcoin. Then we will briefly talk about XRP and Ethereum. I think XRP and Ethereum look quite significantly weaker than Bitcoin, although XRP looks fine. XRP looks fine. Ethereum, I would still be careful with that, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the thing is, and the key reason why I think you need to be relatively cautious here, is that the US market is opening in 14 minutes. Usually that's already quite volatile. I expect that to be even more volatile today for two reasons. First of all, with the move up we've made since yesterday afternoon, we left some imbalances. It's quite likely that at least the upper imbalance is going to be tested. So that's around 111,000, a little bit higher to be fair, but okay. And then outside of that, Monday is normally quite bearish, and I would expect, so far it has been quite good, as you can see, or at least it's been stable, but I would expect that to at least be tested, right? So I think that bears are at least going to test the conviction of some buyers, and that we will see a pullback somewhere at the early US session. So I think that's what you need to be aware of, and something else. So that's for Bitcoin specifically, right? So with Bitcoin specifically, I think it's very likely that we're going to test those imbalances between 111 and 110,000 at this point of time, given the fundamental strength that we are still seeing, right? So as long as that stays, I think this. If we get some bad news, I no longer think it. But because of these fundamental strength right now, I would say it's quite likely that we will be able to hold it afterwards, and that Bitcoin will be able to get some stability around 111 and 112,000. And then from that stability, we can also move up, but that remains something for the future. And I think it's good to know as well that at this point of time, short-term, Bitcoin is leading the market. So that means that Bitcoin is dominant. And I think on the higher time frames, the Bitcoin dominance is also putting in a bottom right here. So that's good to know that potentially, even when Bitcoin is able to get some more bullish momentum here, altcoins may not be as strong. So when we're talking about XRP, XRP is fine. XRP has been quite strong over the course of the last 24 hours. I expect the same. I expect the pullback of 2.82, 2.8, but I do think we'll be able to hold it, and that will be able to remain relatively stable. With Ethereum, I am not so certain. Ethereum has also been able to recover, but Ethereum still on the higher time frames. And if you take a look at the relative strength of Ethereum against its peers, I would be cautious with this. But I've said that for the last week. Over the course of the last week, I think it has been the right call, and I'm still going to call for it today. So that's it. I mean, we'll talk about altcoins in a moment, but in 12 minutes, the US market is opening. That's going to be crucial, right? It's going to be crucial what happens there. I would expect a pullback initially, and then somewhat of bottom forming and somewhat of stability. But I'll be watching the news very closely as well. If we get some bad news, Bitcoin can certainly still drop down lower as it stands right now, since the bottoming we've seen so far, I wouldn't say is enough. And when we're talking about altcoins, I still think Plasma, so XPL, is definitely one to watch, but I would watch for it going lower before stepping in. What more do we have? Super got an upbid listing that was very strong, but at this point of time, I'd say it's too risky to trade. And then something new, we had the launch of Falcon Finance today. We don't yet have the price here on TradingView, but that's a very interesting launch, right? So this is it. It's Falcon Finance. It's the coin made by DWF Labs, which, if you know a little bit about DWF Labs, you know not to ignore this. Already has a market cap of $1.35 billion, which is crazy, but definitely one to watch. That doesn't mean you have to buy it, but definitely one to watch. So those are my thoughts for today. Hopefully that helps. But for now, have a great day, everybody. Take care and bye.